All right, it is time finally to get this back into that. I didn't intend for it to take this long. When I last finished the video of putting this thing back together, I had every intention of putting it right in this back into the ski and getting this thing hooked up and going, even though we were, I guess, well into the fall. But anyway, the weather just seemed to change quickly, and since I don't have a heated garage, I didn't get out here and mess with it. So finally the weather has changed. It's about 60 degrees today, and so we're gonna get this engine started, at least getting it back in this hole. I know it doesn't look like it, but I did clean it. I dumped a lot of purple power down in here, scrubbed it, but that's about the best I could get it. But who cares? Who's going to see all that anyway? And I did it. It's not really a greasy, grimy. It's just, I guess, just stained really bad. So, all right. Well, I'm going to set you up here, and I guess put you on a tripod, and we're going to get this. Got my little dolly there on the floor, and I'm going to use that instead of breaking my back, carrying it from there to the ski. So let me get you set up, and we're going to start the process of getting this back in, getting it all hooked up, and hopefully we're going to get this ski running. I don't know if we'll do it today. It's kind of late in the afternoon, getting a late start, but we're going to get it started and get moving on it. All right, so let me get you set up here. So I've got the engine in, and so what I've propped it up, I just want to show you what I decided to do first is I'm going to put the stator cover on, and then I'm going to move to the back side of the engine. But I decided to do this first instead of moving to the back and hooking up the water line, and I was going to hook up the starter, the ground line and the power line, whatever. But anyway, I decided to do the stator first, just because there's enough room. Once I put this on, I can still move the engine around as needed. If I hook up the water lines in the back first, that does kind of limit me as far as how much I can move the engine around. So as you can see, I've got it facing up here, and I'm going to put the stator on first. But since I don't have a way or any way to put the camera above into the hole to show you, I'm just going to kind of show you what I'm going to do, and we'll see about how well I can videotape it. But so what I'm going to do first, it's been a while. I have already cleaned this, but not recently, so I'm going to go ahead and put some brake clean and just clean the mating surfaces here. Oops, it's about to fall. And then, well, I'm going to take out this, the gasket there. I've got another gasket here that I'm going to use, a new one, so I'm going to pull that out. But I'm going to just clean up the mating surface really well. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put a new gasket in, and then I'm going to put a light coating, I guess, of a gasket maker, whatever. I've got copper here. I'm gonna, like I said, just a light covering of that. But anyway, if you're doing this and you're putting this back together, just a couple of things. There's a spring here. Now my spring is down in here, but make sure you have it. Sometimes when you take these apart, that spring will come out. That did that on the Sea-Doo engine that I rebuilt. Fortunately, I saw it, had seen other videos, but to look for it. Also looking for your pins here. So I've got this one that's picking up here, and the other is on the actual stator housing cover here. Make sure you have those, and that's about it. That's what I'm going to do now. Just kind of clean it up, put a new gasket on there, and what I'm going to do, another YouTuber, Erickson, I can't remember, I watched him totally rebuild an engine, a Yamaha engine, and one thing he did with his gaskets is what I'm going to do. He had some like assembly goo that he put on these gaskets, just because I had issues with the Sea-Doo, and I couldn't get it to stay, and it didn't matter whether it's carburetor, the engine gaskets, or whatever. And by putting that goo on it, it does seat it well, makes it kind of stay in there, and so that's what I'm about to do. And we'll see if I can set the camera up some way, show you as I put this together, or just kind of clean it up a bit and get it ready to be put back together. All right, so I'm gonna just kind of clean it up a little bit. Got a small pick here I'm going to use just to get this old one out. As I said before, just going to take just this assembly goo, and put it on there, and I'm not going to pull. I think he says, or somebody in their video that I watched, that don't pull it, don't stretch the gasket out, but just give it a pretty good coating all the way around, and this will help it stay in to the groove there once you get ready to put it back in. All right, that's good enough. Got that ready, and put a little brake clean paper towel. Stay up there. All right, let me see. Let's get this lined up right. So far, maybe that's good. Not to say so far it's not working too well. It's almost like if it's a little too small, but I think it's going in there now. Okay, so I've got it cleaned up. I've got the new gasket on, and got a thin coat of gasket maker got on there. So now I'm just going to flip it over and hopefully get this thing lined up. And since it's been a while, I am glad that I did steal some Tupperware, put all my bolts in. If I'd have just thrown them all in a bucket or something, much time has gone by. It'd been much harder to pick out the bolts that I needed. But so I've got them all here, and so I'm going to get them in there, get that back on, and we'll get the first part of this engine back in here done. Okay, I've got the stator on and bolted back on the front of the engine. So then what I've done now is fold the engine over to the back side. So the stator is here. So I had the engine folded with the pipe up so that I could get the stator on. So now I've just done the opposite and folded the engine back over the other way to expose the back side. So now what I'm going to do is I got the two water lines here that hook up. Got the starter and the ground that I'm going to put in here. And then I believe I'll flip the engine back up. And then I'll go from there. I may go ahead and put the oil pump and then the carburetor back on, but we'll see. So that's what I'm going to do now. Again, I don't know, I don't have a way of putting the camera really to where you can see down in the engine bay while I'm doing it. But anyway, this is not a difficult hard part. Like I said, just got these two here, and then I've got the ground and the power to the starter, and then I'm just going to flip the motor back up, and then I'll bring you in. When I go from there, I've got the two motor mounts to put down, but the reason I haven't put those in is because I wanted to leave plenty of room to move this engine around in the hole and to do just what I'm doing, to create space for myself. So we'll see. When I get it flipped up, I may go ahead and, like I said, do the oil pump and the carburetor. I'm not sure. I'll look at it. Once I get this done, flip that engine up, we'll go from there. Okay, real quick before I move on, get this engine, as I said, tilted back. I got the two water lines connected. I got the starter, power line to the starter connected, and underneath that I got the ground connected to the bolt behind the starter. So alright, now I'm gonna, like I said, flip this engine toward me, get it seated, and then I'll take a look at where I'm at and decide which what I'm gonna connect next. Alright, so now I've got the engine laid back over on the other side here. So here's the plan. I'm going to go ahead and strap the carbs on there, and then I'm going to move over here and get the oil pump back in, and of course then I'm going to connect the oil line to the oil pump, get that on, and then I think I'm going to move back here. I'll move this engine forward a little bit and put in the engine mounts back here. Again, the reason I don't have the engine mounts in right now, I'm going to try it this way, is you can see I've put 3 blocks of wood underneath to jack it up here, so that when I get to the oil pump there, that I'm not working way down here in the bottom of the ski and I'm trying to feel around, blind, and just having to feel with my hands to get the bolts in and stuff. So Anyway, I'm going to do it this way, jack it up a little bit there so I can see what I'm doing. And so first let's get the carbs on, and then move, like I said, to the oil pump, get that oil line hooked up, and then we're going to get the motor mounts on. So a few steps, and I guess I didn't hit record because there was nothing there when I started looking at it last night. So if it means anything, I'll take you off the camera stand. I'll just show you the last few steps, but I think it's pretty simple from where I left off of what I did. But anyway, I'll show you the engine. It's bolted back in. But before I do that, let me give you an update on where I am after I got the engine back in. So I was anxious to hear this thing run. So when I got the engine back in, set up, connected the lanyard here, and so cranks at a very high idle, and played with it a little bit and couldn't really fix it with the carburetor on the ski. So I'm going to take the carburetors back off and play with the adjusting screw, and let's see if I can get the idling, get that set, and then get it back on and try it again. But there's one other thing. It's not the only thing. And I may do it now. I'll wait till I pull you off the camera stand. But the other thing is, as soon as I bump the start button, I'm getting loud beeps, low fuel. Well, I've got 6 gallons of gas in the tank that I know that's there. So it's not low of fuel. So I may have a fuel sensor going bad, and we'll look at that real quick. But just want to give you an update, show you how I finished putting the engine in. Everything's there except for the pipe. But obviously I'll hold off on that because I got to get the carburetor back out of this thing and see what's going on there. So let me pull you off there, show you real quick what I did. Very simple, and then we'll touch on this just a little bit more. I'm disappointed. Obviously, I was hoping that get this back in, and was hoping that it would fire up, idle good, no issues. But I guess that's the story of my life on these jet skis, just one thing after another. So let me get you off the stand. We'll take a look at this and take a look at this fuel problem. All right. Okay, let's take another look back into the engine hull. Everything that you missed wasn't much, but as I said, the first thing I did was get the carburetors back on. Got those put back on, 6 bolts all together. I think I can't remember, this was yesterday, it's 12 or 16 foot-pounds getting those in. And then I had the engine jacked up here with 3 2x4s so that I could see, and that worked out well. Easy job getting the pump back on with the engine jacked up in the front where I could easily see it. I think the bolts, I think there were 8. The torque specs were, I think, were 8 foot-pounds for the bolts on the oil pump there, and then I put some rags down here to catch any oil as I connected the oil lines. Now I didn't get any oil. The oil didn't come gushing out or running out when I pulled the bolts and screws I had in them. So I expected oil to come out, and that's the reason I put the rags down there. So I don't understand that part. So before I run this thing, what I'll eventually do is disconnect these oil lines, crank this thing over until I get some oil spitting out of those lines to make sure that it's working properly. Alright, so I got that done. I moved to the back, and I got the can't see them, got one there, the engine mounts. Put both those engine mounts in, and then what I did is I stood up on the ski as I did lowering the engine back in, just kind of picked it up and just slid it back, and it fit perfectly right onto that coupler there, and it fit almost perfectly right on the mounts, lined up with the holes there for the bolts. So I had shims to put in the back and in the front. So what I did is I bolted it down, just kind of snugged it a little bit, just left a little small enough amount of room that I could slide that shim in there. So I did that all the way around to all four, and then had enough play just to prop the engine enough to slide the shims in there. Had just enough room to slide the shims and the washers on the rear mounts here, and then tightened it down. I think that was 12 or 16 foot-pounds, bolting those back in. I'm getting them confused, I'm sure, with the carburetor. And then the last thing I did is I just connected the power valve cables there, and that was it. So you really didn't miss much. Got that done, and so I was excited. I want to hear this thing run. So I went ahead, connected everything, spark plug wires, got it all that connected, and hooked the lanyard up. And that's when I found out. First, it did fire up, but at a higher RPM. So I'm gonna have to take a look at the carburetor, probably pull it back off, because if I got one or two things, I need to adjust these screws, the jets on this thing, or just as with the Kawasaki, maybe I have a cable, maybe I just needs a cable adjustment. So we'll see. I'll take a look at that. But the other thing that it did was my low fuel alarm beep came on. And I know it's got fuel in it. It's got at least 6 gallons in this thing. So something's going on with that. And I'll let you hear what it does if I can get this in here one-handed. Let's see. I'm going to bump this starter. I've got my make sure I have my spark plugs disconnected there. And there we go. All right, can you see that? Fuel, the mode to shut this thing up. So anyway, that just started. Now I've got it on off. This was yesterday. I had it on reserve. So obviously something's going on. It's just not picking up. So I'm gonna have to, as always in my case, get it all done thinking, man, this is it. And now I've got more work to do. So I've already taken the band off here, checking out how I'm going to pull this out, and I'm gonna have to read up on it, checking this out. But I know there's a float magnet or something in there. I don't know if I can reset it, adjust it, or if I just need something new. I haven't checked the wiring yet. Maybe something's going on there. Here's the harness. I could just unplug it, plug it back together. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. But anyway, I hope I don't have to end up having to pull this gas tank out. Hoping I can just get this out without little work on here. I don't want to drain this tank and then start having to shift everything around in here to figure out what's going on. So, all right. We'll end this here. I'm going to give you an update where I'm at. Got the engine back in, but of course this thing's not running yet. So when I figure out what's going on with the fuel sensor, I may bring you in, maybe make that a video. Not sure. Depends on what I find out there, and then I'm going to take another look at the carbs. So All right, we'll end it there, and I'll bring you guys back in later. So anyway, appreciate you joining me.